Hey guys, what is up? What is up? Hope everybody's doing good. Can you guys hear me? Somebody give me a 5 for 5 in there if everything's all right. Sweet. Sweet. You guys getting any buffering or anything like that? Just let me know. I just want to make sure. Alright, cool. Cool. Alright. So, just to start this off, guys, I'm going to do the interview here in just a second. I got Tommy waiting right now. So, please, guys, stick around for that. That's the main goal of this video. And I get that it's not space weather, but it's very important to me and to Tommy and everybody else. A lot of other people here already. It's something I'm very passionate about because I've been through some stuff. And I want to help others get through those certain situations also. But before we get into that, I want to show you guys some stuff about what's going on with the sun real quick. We are having some issues. It's not big issues, okay? But as you can see there, we got some M flares, okay? We had the one last night right here during the data dropout on the GOES system. So that was an M-class flare also. It ended up being bigger than this one. Now, what's interesting is there was some eruptions with this, but the second one did cause radio blackouts. Okay, we haven't talked about this a whole lot before. We talked about it a little bit, but it says weak reminder, you can read that, degradation of high-frequency radio communications on sunlit side. In other words, whatever part of the planet was facing the sun when it hit is who experienced these radio blackouts. It was not like huge and widespread, but it was most definitely something that most definitely something that we need to take note of. So let me show it to you here on SDO real quick. I got this one pulled up. There's the first one. There's the second one. There's even the third right there. See little pops? So I'll pause it here and we'll take a look at it just for a second. That's the one I showed you guys this morning in my video. That was the biggest one. And then there's the second one. Now, it's all coming from this same sunspot right now, but it doesn't mean that stuff up here ain't going to do anything. So I just wanted to show that to you guys before we move on. I may go in a little bit deeper later on. I might do another stream later on tonight or whatever. But with that being said, I just want to make sure that you guys were aware of this and this was going on. What I do want to do is take you back here just for a second. I'm going to X out of that. And then we will take their predictions here. They're forecasting. They're not really forecasting anything, but we definitely are up for some stuff here. This is LASCO C3 from the SOHO Observatory. That's the one that sits out in front of the Earth, about a million miles closer to it. So what you're going to see here, this is a zoomed out view, and you'll see it erupt right here. Okay, see it coming off? Now remember that disc right there is an occulter disc. It's a physical object there with the camera on the satellite. It's there to block out the main part of the sun's light so this thing can even get a capture at all without getting flooded out with light and getting overexposed. Now notice, guys, you see what we call static? That's not real heavy, but it's more than normal. What that is those charged particles interacting with this camera. Okay? So that's what you're seeing. Now notice you see the blast here and then a blast down here. Most of these two here really do look like they may be going south of us, but I will show you this real quick. And then we're going to get into the interview. Okay? This is the CME tracker, NASA's version of it. And here's the Earth. There's the sun. Here is that second eruption. So top-down view, side view, and the Earth's orbit stretched out in a straight line. It's hitting us on all three. So what that means is that they're forecasting this thing to hit us. So, and I think they're saying around the 28th. So, just saying. Now, so yeah, so that's what we got to look forward to, if you want to put it that way in terms like that. But this is not a huge deal, but it is one of the few M-class flares that we've had this year. It hasn't been too many, but it most definitely is enough. We're going to get more and more as we get go on in the sun cycle. So, with that being said, I think I am going to go ahead and we're going to step into the interview here. Tommy, if you're listening to me, bud, go ahead and unmute your mic, and we will try to get this going the right way. If you want to, go ahead and.
Gotcha.
All right, you're live with your audio right now. I gotta transition over, but let me let's see here. There it is.
How are we looking?
I think we're okay. Everybody, let me know if you guys can see everything fine, and again, we'll roll with it that way and see how we get with this, and hopefully everything will be fine, and we'll go with it, right? Somebody give me a 5 for 5 in there, and then we'll get going. Okay, cool. For those that don't know what 5 for 5 is, that means you're good on audio and video. If anybody's ever wondering that, that's why streamers ask that. So yeah. So just to give a little introduction here, this is Mr. Tommy Scoville. He's fast become one of my best friends. He is definitely an awesome person, and I really hope that you guys get to know him a little bit better as I share my story. I'm hoping that you guys come over there to his channel. He likes to call it our channel, the Lifeboat, and he's talking about the collective, not just me and him. And it's a family already, and it just is. It's something amazing that I've seen. So, with that being said, Tommy, go for it, bud. Introduce yourself. Hello. He is locked up. Are you there, man? Sorry, I was muted. I was muted on Zoom. Ha!
There we go.
You guys got me now?
I do.
Okay, cool. Can everybody hear me now? Just so everybody understands. I want to make sure everybody's good. Sorry.
Okay, then.
All right, cool. All right, we're going to get going. I just introduced you, Tommy, by the way.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you heard me or not. Probably not.
Well, no, I didn't hear you, but it's good to be here.
Yeah. So, again, I just told everybody what your channel was, what we're doing over there, and what we're doing tonight here. And, yeah, so we're going to kind of just move into that. And if you want to, tell everybody what your channel's about and how you came to yours, just a little short thing, and then we'll get into mine and do it that way.
Okay. For all of you who don't know, I am Captain Tommy Scoville. I have a channel here on YouTube called The Lifeboat. And it's basically a channel that started out purely as a channel to talk about addiction and has sort of morphed into living your best life. Just real briefly, there's two components to every addiction, and only one of those components is a chemical or a habit. The second one is something that goes on in the brain that makes some people addicted and some people not. And the thing is, you could be addicted to anything. You could be addicted to playing video games. You could be addicted to working too hard. It really doesn't matter what that addiction is. But we have found that regardless, we're all in the same boat, which is how the channel sort of morphed into the Lifeboat. And fortunately for me, early on in this, I was fortunate enough to meet Mark and found out that we are so on the same page in so many things and have shared so many experiences in life. Mine sort of took a turn for the worse, people. I'm a convicted bank robber and gun runner, but after doing time and finding out what my problems were and studying addiction to basically the level that You can't really spend more time studying this than I did. And since then have turned my life around and have dedicated the rest of my life to trying to help people avoid the pitfalls I have and get back on their feet, living their best life. But for all of you who are here tonight, this is a golden opportunity for me. Ideally, we were going to be doing this on the lifeboat, but since we're over here, it's great that I get a chance to do this in front of all of the people that follow Mark's channel. So many have come over to the lifeboat as well. They're some of the greatest people I've met, truthfully, ever. So I wanted to get rolling right into this, Mark. Obviously, you've had your struggles with the similar substances. You had a struggle with opiates. I went from pills to heroin. Your problem, specifically was pills. It started with an injury, correct?
Yes, most definitely. Yeah. And what's funny about that is when I did get injured, the doctor told me even back then that I would probably be on the medication the rest of my life. So he was actually letting me make that decision. And I didn't realize how big of a decision it ended up being at the end of the day. That's
funny though when you're faced with the decision of living your life in pain or being an addict. It's kind of a tough decision. So what was the injury? How did it happen?
Well, I've had so many medical problems, but the initial pain medication came from a back problem, a lower back, which then morphed into me getting 4 or 5 lower back surgeries. Ended up with fusions in 2 of my vertebrae on my L4, L5, and then later on, I had a neck injury and I got the Peyton Manning surgery through the front. And they fixed that, but it didn't fix it. And so they did another MRI, and I went into what they called catastrophic pain. And I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that term, but what that term means is it does not matter what they give you. You will not get any relief. Your body does not respond to anything, no matter if your tolerance is 0 or not. I was in that for over a day. And my disc had basically almost disintegrated completely, and my spine had shifted over and was actually pinching my spinal cord. Not just the nerves that go down the sides, but the whole cord. It was just shifted everything over so far. It was compressed. And I remember the doctor coming in the hospital, because he put me in the hospital, and they were trying to control my pain. And I'm pacing up and down, walking around in the hospital room, trying to go around the hall. And he, at some point I just lost it. I started crying and everything else, man. I mean, it was bad. And he happened to pop in when I was having one of those episodes. And he's just like, I can't give you anything else legally. He said, anybody else in this world would be laying there passed out, just oblivious to everything. And I was literally walking around the halls. I mean, I had my mind about me and everything. It just, that's what it did to me. And so with that being said, another 5-6 surgeries, I ended up getting fused from C3 to T1, which is 6 vertebrae in my neck.
Good Lord.
And that, again, that, I will say this, when I woke up from that surgery, no pain. He fixed it. Okay. Yeah. But I got rods, I got plates and screws, all that to deal with it. But even after that, I still get quite a bit of pain. And what's happening now is with my neck, I'm actually, if you guys know anything about anatomy, when your head's tilted for every 1 inch your head is forward, that's 10 pounds, and it compresses and it doubles for every other inch. So you're putting that stress all the way down your back, all the way through your neck. And that's, if you see me walk around, and obviously people haven't seen me walk around because that's not what I do, but I am a little bit like this, I try, but I can't look up any further than that. My head, does one of them numbers. But, to bring it back to the addiction, I had, and this is where my problem came in, because I was forced to make a decision, live in pain or take pills. I mean, that's really that's what the doctor told me. I mean, that's what it was back then. It's not like that now. It's actually the opposite. But that's a decision that I look back on, and I wonder if I'd have made the same decision. But, and that's still a question in my mind. Would I have made that same decision? All I knew at that time was there was no way I could live in that kind of pain. So my addiction started with an honest thing. It wasn't something that I just chose. Nobody. We know this. Most people know this, but nobody chooses to be an addict. That's just
no. But I think I know what you're saying, because for a lot of people, and if you take me, I had injuries, but when the ski season would end and the injuries basically had subsided, I continued doing drugs because I liked the way it felt. You really just started with injuries, and the story that you have. First of all, you're not even the only person on the boat. The what happened to you is identical to what happened to Fiona, girl on the boat from Australia, had the exact same injury. And one of the problems is, even when they fix it and it's perfect, the problem is you have healthy above and you got healthy below, and everything that's locked in place starts to rock back and forth on all of those. And it's just one of those things that it might be perfect for a few years. It's just never going to stay that way.
Yeah, surgery will not fix it forever. I mean, they even tell you that when you fix vertebrae, the vertebrae above and below, like you were just saying, they start degenerating. They start at a faster rate. So that's what happens. And he told, and at this point, for me, as far as I'm concerned, and what the doctor told me, there's nothing else they can do for me. If I go into pain again, it's probably going to be something like what happened with your brother with the nerve ablation and all that, where they, but when you do that, then you're talking about, because I can't feel the first 3 fingers in either hand. Yep. I'm numb completely, all the way down both arms, right down through here. I'm not sure. I've never showed you this, Tommy, but can you see that?
Yes.
On my hand?
Yep.
I had a ganglion cyst removed, and it wouldn't heal. I literally fought. It was like 13 surgeries. They ended up, see my bottom arm here? Yep. They did a rotational skin flap, and then they skin graft me here to fix that. So I'm a person that's had 17 PICC lines. That's for people that don't know, it's a catheter that goes in your arm, and it sits right above your heart. Yep. And they leave it in. You can leave it in for, leave it in for months. Highway. Yep. And believe it or not, that actually comes into my opiate story, because they started asking me, are you shooting up through that thing? Because that's one of the dangers of having stuff like that. And they really take that in consideration. But
I did. I had PICC lines numerous times from surgeries. And, by that point in my addiction, I was, if there was anything in the house I could put into that PICC line, I did. So obviously it started out with medical. At what point did it start getting out of control? I mean, were you doctor shopping? Were you doing all of the things that sort of, as you start to spiral down into the addiction? Most people with pills, wind up going to 6 different doctors, especially when you did. Today, the computer systems aren't letting people get away with that. But back then, you could really start playing the game.
Yes, most certainly. I did all of that. And I did the doctor shopping. Just a short little story with that. I was actually, back in the day, CVS was 24 hours. And they were getting robbed all the time. So they stopped that here where I live. But, sure, one of the guys I went to school with actually drove a car into the CVS building, busted the wall down, and took all the opiates he could find. Yep. It was ridiculous. But anyway, I went up there right at midnight, because I knew that I couldn't get the script filled until the previous day or to the next day. I was like, 12:01, man, give me my medication. And but I was doing the doctor shopping. I was getting scripts here, there, and everywhere, wherever I could get them. And again, you nailed it right on the head. The problem is that there was no centralized location for all doctors to see. And then the problem came with they didn't understand Suboxone. They didn't understand any of those things. My orthopedic neck surgeon had no clue how it worked. And he just didn't understand it. So I was educating him, and that's the thing. And that's what's happened now. But as far as my story goes, I started going off the rails. Oh gosh. Well, I can tell you this. I never abused the drug other than what it was intended for until like the last 3 to 4 months. And
Right.
I went from taking 60, not 60, but 10 hydrocodones to 60 a day.
Sure.
The Norcos, obviously, people that don't know what that is, this has less acetaminophen in it.
Correct. It's easier on the liver. Same
Right.
amount of pain medication, but less acetaminophen.
Right. And that was, when I started going down that road, I was functioning. Okay. I look back on it and I was doing stuff before that, but that's really when it really hit, it's, and how I started abusing it was I was at work and I had a buddy of mine.
So you were working after all these surgeries?
Oh yeah, dude. I worked up until I couldn't. I worked at a local factory here as a printing technician. We made Cool Whip bowls, Dannon yogurt bowls, all those graphics and stuff you see on the sides of those. That's what I did. But I worked on $1 million printing equipment. I mean, these things would run at 600 parts a minute. Things would fly. But anyway, working there was hard on me, right? And my friend come back from break and he's like, hey, looks like your back's hurting. I'm like, yeah. He said, well, I know you take the hydrocodone. Why don't you just take an extra dose? I'm like, well, I don't want to do that because, then I'll run out early and all that mess. Because at that time, I was still thinking halfway straight. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And he's like, well, such and such over there on press whatever has got a butt ton of them. Go buy a couple off of him. That's what I did. I thought, well, one time it made me, I'll get through the rest of the day here, 12-hour shift on concrete, all that, right? And then it just snowballed from there. It ended up being to where I would buy an extra dose on the days I worked. And again, we're only talking $10 at that point, okay? Because it wasn't anything more, right?
Right.
But then it became buy a couple extra doses and take one home. Then it became I would go out on my days off buying it from him. and It wasn't just him. I could actually walk down my shop and I could buy it off 4 or 5 different people. And what was funny is it didn't even have to hide it. I mean, just do it right out in the open. And that's exactly what happened, It just didn't matter back then. It just wasn't that big of a deal. So, with that being said, that's how I got started on that bad road. And it went downhill fast for me. I went quick.
That story happens to so many people. You start using the drug for what it's intended for, but the truth of the matter is that anytime you take an opiate and there's pain in your body, the opiate has a job to do. I mean, if you think about it in those terms, it literally goes and it takes care of the pain. But the first time that you take more than is needed to take care of the pain, it starts taking care of emotional pain, spiritual pain, frustration, any of the other things. And that, for someone who, already has that predisposition to any kind of addiction, once you light that thing, it's all over. It's once you start taking more than what is necessary, it spirals out of control so fast.
Yep. And that's the thing. We wouldn't do it if we didn't like it. I mean,
No question.
And some people don't understand that. And it's like, well, like I said earlier, you don't choose it. You don't choose that on purpose. Especially if you know the outcome on the other end of it. It's just one thing that you just don't even, when I woke up and figured out I was addicted, it was shocking even to me, because it was one of those things where I ran out of medication and I didn't really think much about it. So I just said, well, my back's really not hurting me right now that bad. So I'm just going to kind of let it go and not get another script. Well, I remember going back to that same doctor 2 weeks later, and I'd already been through the withdrawal. I was done, right? I didn't even realize it. And he said, when's the last time you had pain medication? I said, because I was still in pain, because that's the first thing he asked me. And I was like, well, I stopped taking it back then. I said, but I'm in pain. I was seriously in pain. But then I remember why I was feeling bad. I finally put 2 and 2 together. Why I went through such hell for 3 or 4 days. And I was like, oh my God, I'm addicted. And I didn't even, it took me a couple days even after I left the doctor's office to come to that. So I went and got another script because he gave me more pain medication. So at that point, when I figured out I was addicted, I still had medication. So I'm like fighting it all the time, in my head. What should I do? Should I do this, do that? And again, I was a highly functional addict. Okay. I mean, to the point where 99% of the people didn't even have a clue. Obviously my wife probably had a little bit of an inkling. Even she had problems seeing what I was doing a little bit. But not, she's the one that actually hammered it down on me, which was a great thing.
With opiates, it's one of the rare drugs that most people who know opiate addicts don't realize that there's something wrong until they see them not on the drugs. That's when it becomes painfully obvious. But while you're on it, everything is smooth. It takes care of, like I said, it takes care of the physical pain, the spiritual pain, the emotional pain. But, the withdrawal from that is not, I want to get high. It's your body literally beating you in physical pain, spiritual pain, emotional pain. You're a wreck.
Yeah.
So you said your wife was the intervention. That's what started.
Oh yeah. And we'll just fast forward through that part of it, and we'll get to where her part came in big time. The day that I knew that I needed to get help, and I really didn't know it till she's like, "You're getting help." It wasn't, yeah, for real. And here's the thing. You do things and you justify things in your mind that you never thought you would when you're addicted. And what happens is you're lying to yourself, for the most part. And it's all you're doing that for is to, like I said, justify it so you can still keep doing what you're doing and be able to sleep at night. And that's why. Now, the majority of us have a moral line we won't cross no matter what, even if it kills us. You know what I mean? But that line is different for everybody. And mine, I had a certain line there that I don't know. I couldn't get myself to really, quote unquote, like, just blatantly take somebody's money or do this. You know what I'm saying? Just like without them knowing. Stealing, I guess, if you want to just put it that way. But I started doing like, this is what happened the day I knew I needed treatment. It was the day after Christmas. And both of my sons, well, my oldest now is he 26 or 27? 26. And my youngest is getting ready to turn 22 here this next couple days. And I have a 14-year-old daughter. But back then, when it was like over almost 10 years ago, so they'd gotten Christmas money. And my oldest son was 17. He knew what I was doing. I didn't hide it from him. And that's one thing that I didn't really do a whole lot of with him anyway. And I kind of regret it and I kind of don't, because he got to see me go through what I went through and understood, and now understands a lot better. But what I did next was ridiculous. Stupid. It was snowing really bad day after Christmas, almost a blizzard type situation. And I drive about 45 minutes on a freeway or a highway 70. Anybody knows where that, most people know what that is. But with my son with me, okay, the day after Christmas at 2 o'clock at night, 2 o'clock in the morning. So I go get my pills with him, and I took the money from my other son's Christmas. Okay, now in my mind, I wasn't taking his Christmas because I was going to, because I couldn't let my wife know I was getting that money, right?
Oh, you were going to replace it.
Yeah, I was going to replace it as soon as it came around, but that day it didn't work out that way, because you'll understand in a minute. But I get my pills, I leave the drug dealer, which happened to actually be one of my friends. I really wouldn't even call him a drug dealer. He's just somebody that had pills, right? And he was just getting rid of, I guess, technically, whatever. I'm not going to get into semantics there. But right. I left those pills, and I got about a mile down the road, and he calls me and says, "Hey, man, you gave me a 20 too much." I'm like, okay, well, I flipped around. I was going to get the money. I said, well, just give me pills for it. I mean, seriously, that's where my mind was at. I was like, what the heck? So, I get back on the road, and we're coming up on our exit to get off where I live, and I actually wrecked. I spun out on the highway. Of course, I did the old father throw the arm in front of the child type of thing, because my 17-year-old was with me. And when we came to a stop, there was a road sign about 3 inches from his head.
Ugh.
And that's when it hit me. I knew. I was like, then you start thinking about what you just did. then you start realizing how stupid you are and how stupid what you just did. And I just did something that I never thought. I put my kids at danger. All those things, took money from my kid. You know, and let me say this, I did intend to put it back, but that's just the justification. Whether it was going to make it back there or not, who knows? I don't know. Right. You know, at that point, I was such in a bad place in my own mind that I just didn't know. So anyway, I drive home and I hear the van started making noise after I spun out. One of the calipers had come loose. But anyway, I was looking at that and my son went into the house. So when I go in, my wife's standing at the back door. Where the hell you been? You know, that kind of a thing. And at that point, I just had to spill it. I knew. And so, you know, and then it went on to the whole situation with how I got help, as far as, you know, getting into treatment. And that ended up being the biggest part of this, because that was it really sums up what the recovery world was back then versus now. And still, they fight the same issues about what I'm getting ready to tell you. And so I tried to go to in-house rehab, right, the next day. They wanted me to get a plane ticket, fly all over halfway across the world, here, there, and everywhere, right? Yeah. You know, they're asking me, first thing they ask you is what kind of insurance you got. I mean, that's the very first thing. They want their money.
Yep.
But obviously, I had insurance, but I wasn't rich. I'm not rich. I don't have anything like that. So anyway, I go to a place in Indianapolis. It's called Fairbanks. A lot of people around here know where that's at. But so I go up there that next evening when my wife got home from work, and I took my 17-year-old with me because I wanted him to see that I was trying to correct my mistakes. He had been there through all the nasty stuff, so now it's time for him to see the good. And
good for you.
So I took him with me, and I struggled with that decision. Me and my wife both did. But I got to see how it affected him. And that just, that was hard. But they started asking me questions, you know, the intake stuff. And they started, you know, what's your drug of choice? What's, you know, how's this? How's that? What's your, you know, what kind of medications you're on? And, of course, they're asking what kind of insurance you got. Because the lady sitting there doesn't care if you don't have money. She's not the one pulling those strings trying to keep people in or out, right? She really is trying to help the person across from them. You know, it's the bigger part, it's the corporate part of that's the issue. But she starts asking me questions, you know, do you have problems?
I know exactly where this is going.
I bet you do. But they start asking me questions, and I'm like,
problem, Mr. Wages? Do you drink alcohol?
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what happened. So they asked me if I had opiates. Obviously, that's why I was there. They asked me all that stuff. And then they're like, well, can I see your insurance card? So they looked at my insurance card. And then I seen her start to, like, funnel my questions and frame them in such a way to get me to tell her I was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And I didn't pick up on it, right? So I was like, no, I'm not. I don't drink. You know, I never. You know, it's just something I didn't do. And no, I'm not an alcoholic. I don't do that.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure you don't drink?
Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure that you're sure? You know, I mean, seriously, it was like that.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, I did not pick up on that, and I wish I had have. But I also am kind of glad I went through what I went through after this, because it helped me realize how bad of a place I was in, or in my mind, I mean. So she goes off. She says, hey, we're going to try to run your insurance. And she knew that by the last 3 digits on my insurance card that they were not going to accept it.
Right.
But they went and they got the nurse. They called the insurance, talked to the insurance nurse, trying to get them to allow me to come in, and they wouldn't do it. So I had to walk out of there. So on the way home, oddly enough, I had to drive by where my drug dealer lives, or my friend. And, you know, of course, I'm in my mind, I'm like, man, I really just, if I could, you know, I didn't want to, and I was no way I was going to look at my wife and say, hey, I'm going to go get a few of these so I can find treatment. no way that was going to happen because, number one, anybody that's never been an addict like that wouldn't understand that. It would seem as though I was just trying to get high. And at that point, it wasn't. I was just trying not to be sick.
To not be sick until you get to rehab, sure.
But she wasn't going to understand that, and I knew that, so I just didn't even ask. And rightfully so. She shouldn't have to. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But so that same CVS I was just talking about, it's about, it's a few blocks away from my house. And again, they're 24 hours. So I swung in there and I picked up a couple bottles of vodka. And again, I don't drink. And I just, I ended up
drinking both of them.
Yep. Drinking both of them. I end up, peeing the bed, all that kinds of, and she comes home from work and she's rightfully so. She's ready just to kill me, basically kicking me out and all that stuff. Next thing I know, my parents are here. And I'm, so out of my mind, I just want to drink another drink so I can go back to sleep. I was passed out basically. And because of my bariatric surgery that I had, if I drink 1 or 2 shots, I'm lit. I'm done. I mean, honestly, that's how hard it hits me. And I know this kind of sounds weird, but it's very akin to what the college kids are doing with the anal shots.
Sure, exactly.
People don't know what that is. They actually will stand on their head or whatever, or bend over a couch. They'll pull a shot right down their butt because it bypasses all the filters and goes straight into your bloodstream.
Yeah, the mucous membranes will take it directly into the bloodstream.
Yep. And so that's exactly, it's similar to a bariatric patient because it goes straight to my intestine. It doesn't, you know what I mean?
Bypasses that whole thing, yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is for me to drink 2 big bottles of vodka.
64 shots.
Yeah. And I even actually, I drank, I just bought one the first time. And I remember getting up about 3 o'clock that afternoon before my wife came home. My dumb ass got in sorry about my language, but this is one of those times where I'm just whatever.
Sure,
but I drove back up to the store. Drove, yeah, and got some more vodka.
God, you're still here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The decisions you make when you're in that state of mind is just ridiculous. But anyway, obviously, I'm ready just to eat a bullet. I mean, honestly, that's where I was at. So my parents are here. I even actually got up out of bed, didn't have my pants on, walked right by them, went to the freezer to get more vodka.
Yeah.
That's where I was at. So just to let everybody know, that's how bad it gets, guys, even for people that don't think that they'll ever be like that. Don't mistake that you can't get there, because you will. You will if you go down that road. But anyway, so at this point, I got alcohol poisoning. I mean, they're afraid I'm going to die or whatever.
Sure.
So they take me to the hospital. And at that time, the emergency rooms in the hospitals will not give you Suboxone. They won't give you buprenorphine. They won't give you methadone. They won't give you nothing like that for withdrawal. They don't care. That's just not what they do. So they end up, because I told them, are you suicidal? Well, heck yeah. You know what I mean? And at that point, everybody is. I mean, I wouldn't think anybody walking the planet when they're feeling like that is going to say anything different. So I said that, and when I did that, that was the same as locking the door, man. Because as soon as I said that, straight to the psych ward.
Yeah.
Straight to the psych ward. No shoestrings, nothing, right? I mean, the whole bit, right?
Yeah.
And what made it worse is I was actually the only patient on the floor at the time. So not only did I was up there fighting withdrawals in a place where I couldn't be by myself because you got barn doors, you don't get any kind of doors that shut. They have to be able to see you all the time. Yep. It's like old saloon doors is what they look like. But that's what I dealt with there. And, that whole time, my family is still behind me 100%. They're trying to help me, that's just that my support system is probably the best that you're going to see. And that's why I'm so lucky to have married my best friend, number one. For her to stand by me through all that bull crap is something that you just don't typically see.
No, and it's a testament to your wife.
It definitely is.
It's a difficult thing. And just real quickly, for anyone who hasn't been down this road, when he said that, when you get put on suicide watch, they basically give you an outfit that looks like an oven mitt. It's it's a very, very thick material that you couldn't twist into anything you could make a rope out of. and it Velcros at the top and on the sides. So you can't, it basically just would shred off. And it is, for all intents and purposes, a dress, except it's so thick. It is, I have been in that outfit myself. And the crazy thing is if you're at your rope's end, when they put you in that, it takes you 6 levels lower. You've never felt worse in your entire life than, and what they do is put you on observation with 20 people staring at you the entire time.
Yep. You feel like you're a lab experiment. I mean, you really do.
For all intents and purposes, you are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're watching every single minute of what you do, and they want to monitor your urine, and it's oftentimes they don't even give you a toilet, so you're using a small little cup, and it's degrading and it's awful. I actually, believe it or not, spent 38 days in one of those.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it's I've been there. It's an awful experience, and real quickly too. People, if anybody out here has an addiction and you wind up going through the same interview process, I'm not suggesting anybody lies for a living, but if you've had a couple of drinks ever in your life, you might want to say that, yes, you've had a problem with alcohol, because all insurances are going to take you in quickly for an alcohol detox where they are not going to take you for pills. And the reason is, even with pills, you're going to think you're going to die, but you're not. It's just the worst feeling in the world. But to detox off of alcohol cold turkey will kill you. And the insurance companies are never going to want to be put into that position. So all of them will treat alcohol, acute alcohol withdrawal. They will not do the same for pills or heroin or anything else. So
100%.
The truth slightly.
That comes plays right into my story too. And that's what I was, that right there is exact. You hit it right on the head, because what happened was my family was actively still trying to seek and get me treatment somewhere. So, obviously, Fairbanks was the closest and the most reputable place around here. So that's where I was trying to get to. And they wanted $4,000 up front.
Yep.
And obviously I didn't have that money. But here's the thing. They finally, my dad asked my uncle, and my uncle was like, yeah, here. Really wasn't even a question whether or not he was going to do it or not. It's just I didn't even know that was an option, or maybe I would have called him that day. Who knows? I don't know. But now, as I'm going through this process, they come get me in an ambulance because they're not going to release me to anybody. So they're going to take me up there in an ambulance. So I get there, and I leave the hospital and I go to Fairbanks, the treatment center, and I go in there and I'm doing my intake again, right? And now, because I was just in the hospital for alcohol, my insurance covered it.
Sure.
So that's what I'm trying to say. And what Tommy just said there is, we don't ever encourage anybody to lie, but just try to understand if you ever find yourself in that position again, or find yourself in that position at all, just try to read into it a little bit and make, do what you have to do to get into treatment. That's basically what I'm saying. Because nothing else is going to matter at that point.
And real quickly, just so that people don't misunderstand, you could quit drinking without a problem. The thing is, if you get to a point where you're in acute alcohol detox, where you're going into delirium tremens, I'm talking about people who drink a fifth a day. It is the second it's the second highest cause of death for incarcerated people on the planet. Is you get in and the person says, no, I'm all right, and they put them in a cell and the person dies from alcohol withdrawal. Number one being suicide. But a lot of people never get to that point and can quit on their own. But if you're someone drinking a fifth a day, don't try to do it on your own. Please go to a hospital, do something like that, because it's way too dangerous to detox off of alcohol alone. Sorry, go ahead, Mark. Please.
No, it's okay. No, you're talking about stuff that everybody needs to hear. And and I want to stop here with that, because this is the kind of stuff that you're going to get over on the Lifeboat. And that's why Tommy's here on my channel. That's why we connected so well, because we've been through very similar things. And it's like, we kind of think about the whole addiction and recovery process kind of the same way, almost identical. I mean, honestly, I've not seen a whole lot of people take this view on what we're doing. And my guess is that there are a lot of people out there that feel how we feel. They just don't voice it. And I think that because they're afraid to say it. That's something that, for me, biggest part of my recovery is not hiding any of it.
That's right. Owning it.
You own it. You do that. And what that does is, number one, You no longer have to worry about hiding it, this, that, and the other. You don't have to lie. You don't have to do any of that kind of stuff. And plus, there's some accountability there that gets involved. You know, if you're telling everybody, hey, I'm in treatment, I'm doing great. Well, if you fall off the wagon, there's going to be a whole lot of people out there that knew that you were on that wagon. And, you know, they're going to be there to try to help pick you up. And plus, they're going to know, right? So that's one of the things. But to my story, you know, when I get back up to they get me checked in, right? And, you know, and again, there's certain things that happen and certain people come across your life. And like I said, my wife is probably the most single, influential, best thing that ever happened to me. Turned me into a man really, really quick, and made me who I am, basically. And with that being said, it's like they, you know, when you have somebody like that in your life, they know what to say to you when you need it. And, but yeah, so I go in there, and my biggest fear the whole time, and I never said anything to anybody, was when I got out, they were going to be gone. You know what I mean? Like, my family was not going to be there. She was going to kick me out of the house and all that. Even after all that support she'd already given me, it's still there. You know, you wonder, when you get out, are they going to be there? And, you know, right, I started walking away to go back, and she actually grabbed my hand, turned me back around, and, you know, she said, hey, we're going to be here when you get out. That's all I needed. I mean, as soon as she said that, it was like, whew. I mean, it was immediate that I knew I could do it at that point. And awesome. And again, with her, that's what we have. But I also want to give credit to my parents. My parents paid for my Suboxone the first year I was on it. And we're talking, you know, at that point it was like $50 a week or $60 a week, something like that. Plus the treatment center. So I mean, it was substantial. Okay.
Intake, sure. The first round is very expensive.
Yeah, and so, you know, I had support everywhere. I mean, and I know, and I feel sorry for people, because there's not a whole lot of people out there that got that lucky like I did. That's again, that's why I point back to the lifeboat, because you get at least some of that there. It is exactly that environment. Go look at the comment sections, not under the live streams, most of them yet, but go look at the ones that are underneath the regular videos, where you're going to see 300 comments versus however many views, right? I mean, the ratio there is ridiculously. I mean, I was like, wow. But what I'm saying is, people are there, they're talking, they're having a conversation, they're supporting each other, they're, you know, and that's what needs to happen. And that's why I support everything that's going on. And obviously that's why you're here. I mean, that's what we're doing. But I'm sharing my story too. But I do think that, you know, I got extremely lucky, because I'm one of the few, and this is not me bragging whatsoever. I've never relapsed. Okay. Now I will say this. Okay. I've had multiple surgeries even after my addiction, and yes, I've had opiates. Okay, even after, but those were necessitated. And believe it or not, guys, I hated it. And why I hated it is because it was in the house. That's all I thought about, 100% of the time.
Sure. Yep.
You don't even mean to. It just happens, and it's so.
You know what? And I gotta stop you, because a normal person, this is what people don't understand. There's a debate that rages in the world concerning whether or not addiction is a disease, and it really comes down to semantics. There are a lot of people in this world who have never been in the boat we all are, and they feel that if you call it a disease, you're allowing the person who was addicted off of the hook, which couldn't be further from the truth. But there's a switch in your head that is not the same as anyone else's. When someone is an addict, a normal person, even if they have abused pills, when they get sober, the fact that they're in the house is not an issue. But if you have the second component of addiction, not the fact that we like the buzz, we like the gambling, we like the porn, whatever you're addicted to, the second component is that there's a switch in your head that gets flipped. And no, the addict has that switch, and the rest of the world does not. Because you did, I tell people this all the time. You know, my friends will say, hey, why don't you ever stop over anymore? Because you got drugs in the house. I can't be in a house where there's drugs, because for me, that switch is never going to be pushed to the off mode. So the only way I can win a fist fight with drugs is to not get in a fist fight with drugs. Yeah, and you can't not take it. If you have surgery, not taking opiates
Right.
really is just not an option. I mean, unless it's a very minor procedure, you're going to have to do something for the pain. But yeah, when they're in the house, I hand, anytime I had oral surgery after, and handed someone the pills and was like, look, man, don't let me near these.
Right.
If I come at you, call the police. Cause I literally,
well, that was one of my controls. Okay. Even when, even with Suboxone, right? Because there was a time when I first got on Suboxone, I would take too much.
Yeah.
But the thing of it is, it never made me high. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't
lend itself to that at all.
It's all mental. It really is. It's all in your head. And so obviously I would go sometimes when I first got into Suboxone, I would take too many of them, and I would be like a day or so without Suboxone at the end of it. Now, again, if you know anything about Suboxone, guys, it's got a 3-day half-life, so you're not physically really feeling anything after one day, okay? It's in your head. You start withdrawing because of the mental aspect of it. And
long before it actually happens.
Yes. And so, one of my control points is my wife would dose me every day after I figured out I couldn't control that myself. And she would see it, and she's like, hey, you're not doing this the right way. And obviously what that did was that lent to her being more comfortable also. And I did that for years. And now I've gotten myself to the point now where she doesn't dose me every day, but the bottle's accessible to her at all times.
Right. So she can count on them or whatever the case may be.
And, honestly, like I said, guys, I've been on this stuff for almost 10 years. So I'm a little further along than most, I guess, with trying to, this is one of the biggest things we try to, that we fight is building new memories. That's one of the things that you have to do when you're trying to get through stuff. You have to build new memories without you being high. And so I've had 10 years of that now. So I'm able to start feeling, it didn't just start like yesterday. Obviously, it was a process all the way through. And I don't think it's ever going to be over because we all have those triggers. There's a stat out there. It's like 0.33 milliseconds is how long it takes your brain to realize a trigger. Yeah. So you don't even know it's happening. Your brain is actually telling you, hey, that's a trigger, dude. You better go, you start freaking out. You don't even know why. Like you'll see something on TV or you'll walk by a certain street, see a certain person.
Hear a song.
Yeah. And it all reminds you because everything you can remember was you were high during all that. And you have to be able to give your brain something else to look at and send to your conscious mind. And for me, that's been a big thing because, when I first was in treatment, I became a recluse. I mean, I just didn't go nowhere. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing at first, but I'm talking like years, right? That's a bad thing. You have to most certainly keep yourself busy. Your mind cannot physically think about two things at once. It's impossible. You have to be thinking about one thing. Multitasking is not a real thing, guys. Okay? Not for your brain. What that is that's your short-term memory. Your short-term memory is remembering what you just said 3 seconds ago, and you're able to pull it back up really fast in your brain. So people that are good at multitasking, it isn't true multitasking like we do with our computers. It's your brain going back to that same memory really quick, and you're able to pull it back up. So those are the people that are good with that. But with that being said, we got to build those memories. And that's what through my walk, I've been able to do those things. And again, I have to say that none of it, I'm telling you right now, I would not have even got into treatment ever. I don't think I would have ever, right? Without my family. Without those people, because people say, well, you got to get clean or get sober or get whatever you want to call it. I'm not going to get stuck up on terms on that, number one. This is something I don't do. I don't care about that. A word is a word, whatever. But it's one of those things where if you can't get past certain things, you're never going to move forward. You just won't. But with me and my wife and all the support that I get, it's one of those things that I just feel lucky.
Yeah.
I don't know, like I said, it isn't, it's an odd thing to have the amount of support that I do.
It is. Make no mistake.
And
if everybody had the amount of support that you have, there wouldn't be a lifeboat. One of the things that one of the goals for the channel, and you just nailed something that's so important to me. You know what? People will argue every single aspect of addiction to the umpteenth degree. There are people who will tell you that addiction is not a disease of the brain. People will tell you that it is only a disease of the brain. And I'm with you. If terms mean nothing, if I start talking about how somebody thinks or how somebody's brain, that all of that means nothing. But
right.
The truth of the matter is, the one thing that when you get back to addiction at its basic form, if you go back to a physician's desk reference from the 30s, right, last century, it said, keep the addict away from guns, don't let him near vehicles, and just he's going to die. There's nothing that could be done. There is no treatment, and there's no way to fix this. And then two alcoholics got together, and one said, I'll stop you from drinking today if you keep me from drinking today. And two alcoholics proved that doctors were wrong. And the principle behind what we're doing over at the Lifeboat is to just say, look, if you've had a problem with drugs or alcohol, it doesn't make you a loser. It just makes you someone that has something that they need to overcome. And if you don't find the support, where it would be ideal, to get it from family and friends, even when family and friends want to help, you notice you and I get together and there's an instant bond that we don't have to explain things because we are all in the same boat. And once you're around people who are, it's very similar to watching people that have been in war. You know what I mean? And they talk about battles or whatever. There's an instant understanding among people that have been there and done that. And that's really what the boat's about.
Yeah.
And amazingly, a lot of people have showed up who have never been addicted to chemicals, who come just to support people who have. This month is Recovery Month worldwide. This is the month where we celebrate recovery. And it really has been awesome to see what happens. When I met you and you first talked about the boat on the channel, the number of people that have come over from Wages World who just support people there. It's one of the reasons the comment section is the way it is. But
I'd step in there too and say, guys, anybody listening to me, I look at it as family. Even before the boat, it was a family here. I think everybody knows that. But what made it so special is it all integrated to the same. And that's the same with, like my friend Mark Pyers. It's the same kind of environment. Everybody's there because they like each other. They're there to support. And even if you don't like each other, you're still free to talk. You're still free to be able to support and learn and become. You can be, what I'm saying is you can be a part as much as you want to be a part. Right. Nobody's going to stop either one of that, And back to what you said a minute ago, I hear it so often. You got to get clean for yourself. If you're not doing it for yourself, you're not doing it for the right reason. I'm here to tell you guys, 99% of the people that get clean, they're not doing it for themselves.
No,
because if you look at the base of what I said earlier, as far as, hey, I love opiates. I love how it makes me feel. Why would I quit doing that for myself? It just it makes absolutely no sense when you look at it that way. So you're doing it for yourself in a roundabout way, but you're doing it for yourself so you can do it for the people that you love.
Yeah.
Okay. That's how I look at it, and that's how I've had to, that's my understanding of that has become that. It wasn't always like that. I think most of us, when we don't understand what this whole process is, really there's a huge stigma around it, especially with like Suboxone and methadone. We're talking about pill mills, clinics, all this and that, whatever. I don't care. If you're controlled, I don't care.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm not hurting nobody, if I'm out here and I'm doing what I can and I'm not doing things that's going to hurt me or anybody else, yes, I guess you could overdose, you can do all those kinds of things. But what I'm saying is if you're trying to actually get into recovery and you're doing Suboxone and methadone or whatever that choice is of yours, yes, I prefer others over others. We all have that, right? But I'm not going to sit here and tell somebody that, don't do that because it didn't work for me. Or don't do that because it didn't work for Bob down the street. But go over here and do this because it worked for Jill down the road. No. You find what works for you. And if it's okay for you, guess what? You're living your best you. That's what you're doing. And yes, you can progress and you can, and this is the thing that I want people to understand. People that are addicted, 99% of them are really good people. Okay? You might not see it on the surface. Okay? Those people need a moment of clarity. They need to have that clarity. If taking methadone is going to give them that clarity for a minute so they can actually sit and look at what they're saying and what they're doing, they can reevaluate what they need to do to get to the ultimate goal of being okay without all of it, right?
Sure. Yep.
So if you can't, if you're not ever going to get that moment of clarity, what is the point? You're not ever going to be clean or sober or in recovery or whatever you want. I hate terms like that. I really do. And I understand we have to put a word to it so we can have communication. I get that.
Sure.
But don't get hung up on definitions. That's what I'm trying to say.
And don't get hung up on cliches. If you're someone that's been to 400 12-step meetings, they are going to literally drill into you certain phrases. One of which is, if you do not get sober for yourself, you're not going to do it. It's not going to last. And here's the thing: if you believe that, that's fantastic. But here's my experience: as a person that did 6 grams of heroin a day for a couple of decades, when the world is at its worst and you're thinking of making that phone call, I don't stop making that phone call because of how much I love myself and how much I want to be a better person. My why is my daughter. My why is my son. And what stops me from making that phone call when I'm really at the brink was always my kids. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. They'll beat on you. In 12-step programs, they'll tell you that's not going to work.
Right.
I don't think you pigeonhole into any of those things. And I'll tell you, people, crazy but true, one of the things that really keeps me online right now is the support group that we've built on YouTube. I mean, this is an opportunity to do what people get at 12-step programs, and without having to leave and at any given point pick up a phone or any other access point, and you're in the same kind of support network. I have a group of people that watch me every day, and on days where things are really killing me, the fact that I know that there's a couple of thousand eyes of people that care what I say and what I'm doing, that really keeps me in line. It's amazing how many people every day in the comment section will say, where is so-and-so? I haven't seen a comment from him in a couple of days. Does anybody have his email address? I mean, the dream of what's happening, that I think social media missed its mark, what it's capable of doing. And because you do it here. This is a family that you've built on this show. And there's a few out there. I mean, there are some channels like ours where people are really, care for one another and know one another and have taken the time. But it's rare.
It most really definitely is a rare thing. And that's, like I said, guys, if you need and you want a support system and you don't have that, like Tommy just said, me and Tommy or whoever else is actually trying to be part of, the background of the lifeboat or whatever, just trying to make it work. We don't really even have to say anything. You can go in the comment section and you can see everybody helping everybody. That's just what happens over there. You don't even have to do it. You don't have to say a word. It really seriously happens that way. And that speaks volumes for what is actually going on. And I think it helps that, when you guys, I'm not even going to say if you guys go over there, because you guys will. I know you will. We all love each other. You guys are supporting me. You're seeing Tommy, and that's what's happening. I really hope you guys do go over there, because I'm telling you guys, it is something special. But he is one of us. That's what makes it work. He understands it. He doesn't put himself above anybody else, just like it's very similar to the way I run my channel. I don't take anybody's voice. I don't do any of that. People are allowed to have their opinions as long as it's respectful and not vulgar. Discourse actually does help. if you're disagreeing, then, well, maybe you're seeing a different point of it now, as long as it's done respectfully. But Tommy understands this because he's been through what we've been through. He's living it right now. And what he was saying with, how the boat helps him, that's part of that accountability, because he does have 2,000 eyes on him. Plus, it's also his support. It's accountability and support at the same time. He's got family support and things too, just like I do. I'm not going to get into the, that's for Tom to talk about. But yeah, you're going to get something similar. It's just, I don't know how else to explain it, but it's a family environment. It really is. Because when somebody gets you'll see it too, when somebody gets attacked that's in the family. Yeah. That's why we get them comments off there real quick, usually, because that's just what happens. We take up for one another. It's like brothers and sisters, like doing real life. That's just what happens. But yeah, so, my story doesn't end there, obviously. It's a longer story to where I'm at now. But I do want to touch on something else here real quick. We're talking about the alcohol withdrawal and all that. And Tommy was talking about how people can die from that, and that's most certainly true. Okay? But what I want to say here is, if you look down there in the bottom right, I'm assuming it's, the bottom right of the screen there, it says benzos. Those are benzodiazepines. You might as well just put that right over top of alcohol. It's a pill form of alcohol.
No question. It's the exact same thing.
Yep. Those are your Xanaxes, your Ativans, Valium, all those kinds of things are in that same family of pharmaceuticals. And what I'm saying is that if you're going through that, that's one of the biggest dangers, is trying to do that on your own. You have to have somebody with you. A lot of people need medical help, okay, to get through those kinds of things. And, there's things like phenobarbital. That's a seizure medication that they give people that are going through alcohol withdrawal. I think it's actually a blood pressure medicine, doubles as a blood pressure medicine too. But with that being said, I was in treatment, okay? And you don't understand these things to the level that we do unless you see it, right? And so we came together every day, because they separate the men and the women when you go into these treatment centers. And what was good about the one I was at, there's a couple good things there. Everybody that worked there had to be a recovering addict.
That's awesome.
The nurses, the staff, everybody there was addicted at some point. And the majority of them that were there, because this was a place that did Suboxone exclusively. And the reason why is because the doctor was there. He was on the board of getting this stuff, out and all that kind of thing. And, I'm not going to get into, corporate this and corporate that. There's always that stuff involved. You can't stop it. It's always going to be there. So why even... But anyway, so we go to this group, and there was a lady there that was coming off of benzos, and she was not allowed to get out of her wheelchair because she was in such a bad shape, right? She had been in and out of the intensive care unit multiple times for the withdrawal off of the alcohol, right? So, but at this time, she was able to be in the regular facility. And so we come together as a group, and she rolls into this room, and it's a big room. We're all sitting against the wall. And this lady seized right there in front of everybody and died on the floor.
Yeah.
Killed her.
Yep.
So what I'm saying is, that's how dangerous it is. And that's why I want to say it, because she was there with medical treatment.
In a center, yeah.
And it still happened. Okay? Now, this woman was like 40 years old, but she looked like she was 70. So she had been through a mess, okay?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to say, guys. So if you guys are fighting any of that, please don't do that on your own. Get somebody has to be with you. You cannot do that on your own. You just can't. I say that I'm talking about like a raging alcoholic, like somebody that was, really, really into it, right? I'm not talking about the guy that drinks 6 beers a day and just, that's it, right? We're talking about the guy that is really, there. But I wanted to say that, because that really does my uncle passed away from alcoholism. He had his throat banded 3 times because the alcohol had ate his esophagus. And he ended up dying there in my grandpa's home. And it was like a Freddy Krueger movie because I had to clean the, I had to clean the mess up. And, you know, he had a side trash can that sat right next to the chair that he slept in, and it was completely full and overflowing with blood. Yeah. And right in front of his TV, the nap of the carpet was standing up about 6 inches, and it was all coagulated blood standing up that far. I mean, it was horrific. It was like a Freddy Krueger movie. It really was. And, you know, obviously they wanted a bunch of money to come in and clean it. My grandparents didn't have it. Nobody in the family did. So me and my cousin did. He was an alcoholic, so he was hepatitis C positive. So there was one of those hazmat deals, right? So that just wasn't an option, right? So, but, so I that's why I have such a strong stance on that, because I've seen it, right?
Yeah.
To this day, that bothers. I can't watch for years. I couldn't watch CSI shows like that because it would just immediately, same thing, a trigger, just took me right back to that. And you know, but that is what it is. And you know where I'm at now, my family is awesome. I couldn't wish for a better environment to be in. I mean, we all want more things and material this and material that, whatever. But I'm here to tell you guys, the thing that's most important in this world is the time. You can't buy it, you can't purchase it, you can't get any of it back once it's gone. So you better live it now. You better tell people that you love them, because you don't know. You don't know who's swallowing those pills sitting right next to you. You don't know when you're going to walk out in the street and get hit by a bus. You don't know. I mean, you just simply don't know. So don't waste it. I wasted however many years doing what I was doing stupid. Don't do me. You know, and if you're there, then get help and start from now. Forget trying to whatever. Just start now. Build those memories again. Because I'm here to tell you, when I first got into treatment, I thought the same thing. I was like, I'm never gonna, you know, but now I don't think that way. Because I'm far enough away from it, and that's what it takes. Sometimes you got to take it a second at a time. Literally, a second at a time. I'm not doing this in 5 seconds. Yeah. So,
honestly, the most important thing, I think, please take this away. Something that you just said that is just so true. As human beings, we tend to, screw up in terms of estimating the things that we're capable of. And so oftentimes people really overestimate what they might be able to get done long term, but they so underestimate what can get done in a second. Because I'll tell you, I'm a guy that I'm not exaggerating. You run the math. I did millions of dollars worth of heroin. You know, for a long time, I was a very successful human being and just had a 6 gram a day habit and did it, and people didn't know. But when the time came that I quit for the last time, my life changed in 1 second. I mean, it literally, when the time came that I said, this is it, it was a 1 second decision. And since then, the changes that have taken place in my life, you talked about wasting time. People, I sat in federal prison. I mean, if you could have known me where I was, and then, you know, compare me to where I am today, one of the reasons that, you know, that I stress so much on the lifeboat in terms of, you know, just really owning the past and really, you know, being that guy is because, you know, for me, the world needs to hear this. I talk to people every single day from the channel who say, you know, I saw that you did this and, you know, came to believe I could. People, if you can come back from where I was and build a decent life, you know, where you actually are affecting people and you know, leaving the earth a better place, then anybody can do it. And, you know, bottom line, anyone can do it. You're right. It takes, just make that decision and make it now.
Yep.
You know, time's precious.
Yes, most certainly. And I think that's one thing that, you know, as you get older, regardless of the drugs or whatever, you do start realizing things as you get older. Your mortality becomes a lot more evident. I mean, it really does. So you do, and it's natural to start thinking about things a little different. But hopefully you can learn from what other people are saying, like myself and Tommy here. Don't make the mistake that we did. I'm not talking about even the addiction part of it. I'm talking about just living your life and making it good. Don't waste that time. So much of it is just wasted on nothing. If you got your phone, if you got your face like this all the time, take that phone and throw it across the room. Because I'm telling you right now that you will build so many more connections, true connections with your kids and the family that's sitting around you than you ever would sitting there playing Angry Birds or whatever on freaking your phone. You know what I mean? I'm not saying we can't enjoy things like that, but what I'm saying, you need to understand that. I mean, I know people say that a lot, but it's the truth. And it does go back to the whole addiction thing. I mean, it's all a symbiont circle. And so when I got out of treatment, and we're gonna end this here in a minute, but I did get into an outpatient place that I was at, and I guess the last thing I want to talk about is the actual stigma around it. There's a really, really, really bad stigma around any kind of withdrawal medication, and I like to explain it to people like this: when you take Suboxone, you are not anybody that's never had it. Yes, you would get high, okay. But if you were already actively using and you took Suboxone, you're not getting high off of it. You might at first catch a little bump, and here's how one of my doctors explained it to me this way, and I immediately understood. When you go into the office and you're getting ready to get your dose, right? You're here. Okay? If you take heroin or you take your pain medication, you're up here, right? So you walk into the office here, most people think when you take your Suboxone, you go up here. No, you're level. It brings you to level. That's all that it does. It doesn't do anything else. I mean, obviously, there's ways to abuse it. I get it, right? It is an opiate. It is what it is, but it's one of those things that hits your receptors different. And, these are the conversations. I'm bringing this up because this is what we talk about over there. If you want to learn about this, just the whole biology and the whole physiology part of all this, go over there. I mean, you're going to see it. That's what we talk about, right? And again, we're there for each other too. So,
and along those lines, my favorite thing about I've had the Suboxone conversation with a million people. I went 6 years sober without it, and when I started to use Suboxone, it was because after ridiculous amounts of studies, and technically, it's a partial agonist and an antagonist. It really, if you get into the science of this, it pretends to be an opiate more than it is an actual opiate. Is really what happens. It tricks the brain. But the bottom line is, if you've never done drugs, it is a ripping drug. And if you had a partial, if you had an addiction to opiates that wasn't particularly severe, but with people who had opiate with dependency disorder, which is now a verified, diagnosis, then what Suboxone does is cover the brainstem so that we can be normal. And the people who tend to love to tell you how, Suboxone is the bad option, and you're still on drugs and this and that, are people that truthfully have never been there. And it's people who, for whatever reason, still want to be judgmental people. My thing with any of the drugs that basically help a person live for long-term medical treatment, even the doctors who prescribe this say after 5 years evaluate, not step off of the drug and see what it does for you. They say take 5 years on the substance so that the chemistry in the brain, and like you said, the memories that could be created, so that a person actually lives a normal life for 5 years. Then at that point, if you want to start, tapering off of it, you absolutely can do that. The other thing is, if you find somebody that has been really seriously addicted to heroin, when I first started in treatment, I got off of the substance using Suboxone, and cold turkey Suboxone. I felt uncomfortable for 2 days. It's not like kicking heroin. It's a completely different phenomenon for someone who really has been there. I felt like I had the flu. It was not that big a deal. The problem for me was what happened with the mental aspects of it. I still lived with a voice that called to me all the time. And I spent I spent 6 years sober, but I did it like this. It was white knuckle sobriety the entire time. And for me, this is an answer because it allows me to participate in the real world like an individual who isn't, who doesn't have a voice screaming to him. I've heard people say that, Plato said that everybody is born with a God-shaped void in their soul. Addicts are born with an opiate-sized shape in their soul. And if you're able to fill that with something that isn't causing you to rob banks, and do some of the things that I was a college-educated guy that went in and robbed banks. I mean, the level of depravity that heroin could bring a person to is hard to wrap your brain around if you haven't been there. And the crazy thing is the people who like to comment on whether or not, Suboxone is a drug, or if people are copping out to it, are usually individuals that.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing with that, and this is where I, my view on that is this: that when you're actively using and you're an addict, what's happening? You're constantly being judged, right? Right? I mean, ain't that what's going on? So, what kills me is the people that have been through that, and they've been fortunate enough, and were able to get off of those drugs or what have you, and able to leave Suboxone behind, or whatever drug it is. I don't have to pinpoint Suboxone.
Sure.
But then they turn around and point a finger at you, like you're doing something wrong. Yeah. It makes yes. Whatever your view is on this, okay. Everybody's ultimate goal, most likely, is if I can feel good and be okay and not really have to worry about it. Yes, I don't want to take that ever again. Right? Yeah. I mean, isn't that the ultimate goal? That's a given.
Absolutely.
I mean, come on.
Absolutely.
But for some people, that is just simply not the reality of it. And it's not up for me to turn around and point at you or Bob or, Jill down here, Jack, whatever. It's not up for me to sit back and do to them what I hated people doing to me.
Yeah.
How does that work? We have, even though we're adults, but didn't most people's mama teach them to say, if you ain't got nothing good to say, then don't say nothing at all?
Oh, absolutely not anymore.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. And you can get your point across on your view without being disrespectful. Yeah. If you can't do that, then you're not an adult. You're just not.
Yeah. Well, and that's the beautiful thing about, and I say this, people, the freedom of speech rules everywhere in this country, and that is a beautiful thing, but not on my boat. If you want to come over and have an opinion, that's fantastic. But on the boat, we have a rule, right? We have 4 rules. They're all very simple. But the 4th rule is mean people suck. And when your debate becomes mean-spirited, you walk the plank and we never look at you again. It's just, There's no room. There's no hate on the boat.
It's personal attacks. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no room for it.
If it's a personal attack, that's exactly what I do here. I got my 3 rules.
Is there to try to help one another. If you're not there to try to help one another, man, negative channels, all you got to do is randomly click. You don't even need to go and try to find one.
Right.
Just randomly pick anything you come across, and social media will take care of that for you. But if you're looking for a more positive angle, then there are very few options. This channel that you're on right here is one of them. Wages World. I've never run into people here that were negative or attacking. It's a beautiful thing. And there's a safe harbor over at the Lifeboat, especially if you're in recovery. It's a great place. It really is, and not because of me, people, but the group of people that have assembled there are second to none. I feel blessed.
Let me address something real quick. They're in the chat, ZG. I don't think they did that on purpose. They're having a hard time. The moderators are with knowing who to do what to. Okay, so please give them a little bit of charity there. I appreciate what you said there. Okay, so just know that I'm not. You should be able to speak your truth as long as it's respectful. Okay, everybody knows that. But with this discussion, it's kind of hard to know what is being said in the kind of term. So I just wanted to address that, ZG. So please give them a little bit of charity there. I apologize you got smoked out of there for 300 seconds. But, people make mistakes. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, Tom, I get it. But again, he's able to have his opinion, okay? Sorry, I didn't want to keep going because I didn't know where that was going. I needed to say that real quick.
Sure, sure. On the bright side, I've avoided the comment section. I don't think my brain is recovered enough after all the years to keep up with it. So maybe that's a blessing. But you know what? Look, everybody has different opinions on everything. You know what I mean? But there are certain things that become hot button stuff for real. We live in a world right now where the vested interest in everybody seems to be to divide us into two camps, and they don't care what the dividing issue is.
Right.
I like being someplace where the main focus is we're all going to love and care for one another. We could disagree all day long. I don't agree with everybody on anything, but I'm not mean to anybody about it either. People suck.
Yeah, guys, I don't know how the conversation went over there. I just wanted to make sure that, and I don't know who was right or wrong in that situation, but it's okay. What I'm saying is we can stop now and just kind of move forward. If you are intentionally like trashing somebody, please don't. My moderators do a very good job. So,
no question.
And they do things that they think is the best way to do it. They're not attacking anybody by giving them any kind of timeout. It's just what happens, guys. Sometimes it's however it comes across or whatever. Again, I get it. There's both sides to that. I'm not judging anybody, but just please, when it's getting disrespectful. If people are going to get too hot and heavy, maybe it just needs to move on to the next, subject. I guess. I don't know. Hey, Rippy, what's up?
I don't know that we've left anything out anyway, Mark. I really appreciate your honesty. This is, these are subjects. If you haven't been there and done this, it's, even years after the fact. I've been off heroin now 6.5 years, but there's something, when you relive it, it requires I don't know, man. There's a to bare your soul for the world isn't an easy thing. I really appreciate you, Mark. It's you've been through an amazing amount, just the surgeries and the things that you've overcome, and to maintain the attitude that you have. And I don't know if I'll ever get a chance to say this again on your channel, but the amount of effort that you have put into the boat and the things that you've done to help has just been, everybody always says anything I could do to help. Boy, it's really astounding when someone really sort of, says I'll do that and then actually does everything, that they say they're going to do. Yeah. It's been a great blessing in my life to come across you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I would reciprocate that back to you, because here's the thing. We're all helping each other and we all have our roles to play. And I think that, when you're doing it for the right reasons, that's when it works. And I think that that's what's going on. And that's why I'm saying, that's why, when I think something's working, I'm going to try to get everybody I can to that working mechanism. I mean, it's just what it is. So please, guys, I can't say it enough. Go over there and give the lifeboat a shot.
I'll tell you what, they can give it a shot at 1 hour from, I'm going to go live at 9:00 Pacific time. I'm going to do a live feed tonight. So 9:00 Pacific. What is that where you're at, Mark? What time you got right now?
Well, it would be 9:00 Pacific would be midnight Eastern.
Okay. So midnight Eastern, 9:00 my time. People, we will go live. And so everybody from the boat will see you all. And anyone else that comes over, it's going to be another good time. So fantastic.
But yeah, so I think I am going to go ahead and end my stream too, guys. So guys, thank you for stopping in. Really, honestly, it means the world to me, and it means the world to Tommy. I know.
I can't tell you.
There's something that we really want to do good, and this is a way for all of us to benefit. Plus, it's a way for, believe it or not, it's part of. And Tommy said this before. It's part of all of our recoveries. It really is. Helping somebody else that's been through the same stuff we've been through, there's nothing else like it.
No question.
When people start emailing you, telling you did this, you did that, thank you that. I mean, there's no better feeling in the world. There's really not. And that's why, and if I didn't believe in it, I wouldn't be here with you right now. And that's the God's honest truth. And I don't think you would be here if you didn't think I was trying to do it for the right reasons. You know what I mean? And I think it goes both ways. So what I'm saying is that,
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Above and beyond the help. You know,
Yeah.
You've been a brother, and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
God
again,
bless.
guys, and like I said, you know, we're all adults and everything, and I know sometimes in the side chats and in the comment sections, things can get kind of heated. Okay, I get it. But I think we all love each other enough, and we're around each other enough that we can, you know, make mistakes or what have you, and move forward, and still not hate each other and be friends. That's the whole problem with the whole internet in general, the world, cancel culture. That's stupid. But anyway, we're not going to get into that subject. Me and Tommy could probably talk for 24 hours on here like they suggested last night. But yeah, we're not going to do that
See
tonight.
you all on the boat. Thank you, Wages World, all of the people that tuned in, and thank you, Mark. I'll see you all on the boat. God bless.
We'll be over there, guys. So everybody, please check it out. Moderators, can you put his link there in the chat for me if you would? I think you guys already did. Christina just do it or not?
I would imagine.
Oh, that was Mark Pyers. Yeah. Yeah, Mark's probably live right now too, guys. So if you want to buffer there, go over to Mark's and then head over to Tommy's. So yeah, it'd be a good thing, guys. We're gonna have fun. So we're gonna learn, hang out, and be good. So anyway, guys, I love all you guys. Anyway, God bless. Yahusha saves. You can always drink this